Hey, this is Mezaka, and today I want to go over all of the wonderful ways that you can select your mesh. Um, First things first, let's go over the very basics. You can obviously select vertices, edges, or faces. What you might not know is you can also select multiple ones. So let me demonstrate that with edges and faces. Now I can add edges and faces here. Super cool. Many of the selection methods that I'm about to show you don't only work in mesh selection, but also for objects or in the node editor for nodes, etc. So let's go over the very basic stuff. Right click is selecting for me. If you don't have right click select, it's left click, Shift always adds to that selection. That is something that is common for almost all of these shortcuts. So if you press Shift, it doesn't replace the selection, but adds to the current selection. Control is a tool to select the shortest path. So if I select this one and control click this one, it will select the shortest path. Quick tip here. If you want to choose which shortest path it chooses, you should do that in steps. So let's say I want to have the lower path here. I could click this one and then this one, and then it would choose that path accordingly. We also have loop cut select, which is just pressing Alt. Edges also have a special shortcut here. If you press Control and Alt at the same time, you cannot select the loop cut, but the I don't actually know what this is called, but you get the idea. All of these are in parallel lines. Super cool for selecting, for example, the outer edges of a cylinder. A, probably you know about that one. That is selecting everything. Alt A is deselecting everything. Then we have my favorite tool actually, which is the brush select. So if you press C, you get this brush, and if you paint with your left mouse key, you can paint a selection, and with middle mouse key, you can unpaint the selection, and with right click, you finish the action. It's super cool. This is super useful. For example, if I wanted to select the top part, I would just go here and select it, and then it would be selected. It's super good. Also works super well in combination with the wireframe view mode. So always consider if you want to go into solid or wireframe, because on wireframe you can select the backside edges and vertices and faces. Then we have box select, which is just B. This one I don't actually use that often. What I find it very useful for are situations like these, like if I want to select this top part. Generally, I would try to just brush it, but you can see that I can easily miss these small triangles. That is why I tend to use the box select in these sorts of situations, and then I can get these a lot more easily. Control I will invert the selection that I currently have, which is really good, because for example, if I wanted to select a lower cup here, I could also go in the top part, select these, press Control I, and then I have this part. And if I separate that, it's sort of a cup or a vase or something. Keep Control I in mind. This seems like a very simple tool, but in general, if it's easier to select everything else than the selection that you actually want to have, you can do that and then press Control I. And I use that a lot to speed up my selection workflow. Then we also have Control plus and minus, which is super handy because it increases and lowers the selection size. Also works if I have multiple of these selected, of course. Keep in mind that this is not reversible 100%, which you can use for your advantage. For example, I sometimes use it for smoothing selections. For example, if I have multiple stuff selected and I don't want these single selection aisles or very thin aisles, if these are free, I will decrease my selection size, increase my selection size, and then these small islands are gone. So it's sort of a small hack for smoothing out your selection or discarding these small selection spots. This can also change the shape of your main selection, so be careful with it. Then there's something that I actually learned today while looking at all the selection tools in Blender, which is super cool, which is Control Shift plus. And what Control Shift plus is, it actually sort of tries to detect the pattern. So if I go like 3 to the right and then select another one, it will try to repeat that. Like every time I press it, it goes around, which is really, really cool. Also works with like diagonals and stuff, and you know, it's kind of cool, these sort of patterns this creates. So these are like the very, very common and very basic tools. We also have some more specialized stuff. So let's go into that. One thing that I use a lot is random select. So let's say you have like a lot of cubes, like parts of a rooftop or something, and you want to randomize them. What you can do is you can go to select. All of the selection tools are up here. If you ever forget one of the shortcuts, they are up here. You can go to select random, and then you can set a percentage. After that, press Ctrl L to extend your selection and go to like individual origins. You can actually like rotate some of these randomly. Select sharp edges, which is super handy. It pretty much does what it says. I use that a lot for my UV unwrapping workflow. If I use select sharp edges, I will get these sharp edges, and then I can like deselect and select some additionally, and then can mark the seams. And then I will have a good basis for like auto unwrapping it. What is also super cool is if I want to select a single aisle, like this face here is like seamed off on every side, you can press L, and if you set the limit to seam, I think normally it's on material or normal, you can just select like the single UV aisle, which is super handy for UV unwrapping. Select similar is also super good. That is on Shift G. I generally only use area and normal. Material, I generally try to use like this material tab, so you can, like if you have a material, you can select all the faces that use this material or deselect certain materials with this menu here. So material not that useful. Area is pretty good. Polygon size is sometimes good, but normal is by far the most useful one, because you can easily select stuff that points in the same direction, which is cool. Then we have some cleanup tools inside of this cube. Like right now, if we look inside, there's not a face, right? But if I fill this, this is something that you normally don't want to have, because it messes with your normals, like a face inside of this object. What you can do is you can go to select all by trait, and then go to interior faces. And interior faces will select these sort of faces, and then you can just delete them, and then your geometry is clean again. Trait also has like loose geometry, which is similar to that. It lets you select stuff that floats around, like single vertices and stuff. There's actually something really interesting in here. If I select like this area and I use boundary loop, it will select only the outside of this region. Again, I use this a lot for UV unwrapping. So if I have a material that I want to be its own UV aisle, what you can do is, let me create like a second material here and assign it to these faces. What you can do is you can select the material, go to select a boundary loop, and then you can mark a seam, and then you have like your own UV aisle for that. So now there are only two things left. There's side of active, which is sort of self-explaining. So if you use that, you can use like any axis to actually like select everything that is above or below the selection that you made. Not really useful, to be honest, because I could just use B and the wireframe mode, right? And I would have almost the same effect, which is a lot more handy because it has a shortcut. And we have mirror selection. Mirror selection, again, if I have this and I go to select mirror selection, I can select it in any axis or multiple axes, or don't extend, but like just flip it to the other side. Welcome to the outro. I hope these tips were useful for you. I have two small announcements to make. The first one is that Modeling Madness 10 is tomorrow, so if you want to participate in that, join our Discord. And the second one is I'm planning on making a video where I critique and improve other people's low poly artwork. So if you have an image that you're not quite happy with, look in the description below, and there will be a link that tells you what to do with that. I hope you enjoyed the video. See you soon.